different countries, different time zones, working with different companies and still interested in digital transformation, especially in human capital considerations. We continue our live sessions with thought leaders, and we see huge interest in this. My name is Lela Machaidze. I'm project management professional, and I'm really thrilled to talk about anything related to project management. If you want to learn more about me, you can visit my social media sites and my webpage where I post interesting topics, thoughts, and you can benefit from those topics. Today, a little bit about today's logistics. Today's session will start with the presentation by our honorable guest. It will take about 30-35 minutes, but the chat for the questions is open, so feel free to post your questions here and we will be addressing them later. So the session will take 1 hour. It will be recorded. It is recorded, and anybody who is interested in this and wants to watch it later or share with your colleagues and friends, feel free to do so and share this. So now it's my pleasure, and I'm really glad to have a honorable guest, Ayman Mashhour, who has a big experience working in IT sphere, 30 years of working in IT industry, and the people management, working with the people, 24 years of working with people. So it is really interesting mix and mixture of experience, and I'm really happy to have him here. So, Ayman, floor is yours. You can share the presentation and we will go from there.
Okay, so thank you very much. Really grateful for the opportunity. All right, so hello everybody. I hope that the time will be well spent on your part. Hope that I'll be sharing some interesting stuff with you. And without further ado, let me start by saying that in today's session, the agenda is basically starting with one basic fundamental definition of digital transformation that I find kind of useful. Then I'll briefly talk about why we believe that the human capital or people side for digital transformation is really worthy of special focus, and what we mean by people in scope of the discussion that we're having today. Then I'll share with you my view in relation to getting better productivity and better traction in relation to digital transformation initiatives and projects. Basically, there will be 3 tracks, and I will go through a couple of them very swiftly, just mentioning bullet points and expecting you to, I'm expecting that much of the information would be already known to you, or if you are interested, we can, in the Q&A part, of course, dwell on something. And last but not the least, anyway, there will be the list of references that I have used to build my presentation, and I'm sure that within there you expect to find some useful stuff. The last track, or the third track, is the one that I'm going to spend more of the talking and discussions with you. So the definition that I find exciting in relation to digital transformation looks at it from 5 dimensions, or using 5 perspectives. So the first is about the objective of the digital transformation initiative or project, and it looks at the benefits that are expected to be realized, be that cycle time reduction or cost reduction, or better integration, better interconnectedness, and so on and so forth. And it looks at the how part, and it really focuses and highlights the relevance of the process side of things, obviously without undermining the technology part. And there is a special focus and special kind of emphasis on the relevance of data. And some people would look at digital transformation as really very much focused and hinging on the exploitation of data as appropriate. And then there is the degree of intensity and how intense the transformation is. Are we talking about something that's graduated or gradual or incremental, or a radical kind of change? And as I'm sure that you're well aware, and Lela would be in a much better position to talk about this in terms of managing change. Obviously, if we are talking about radical change, then that's a major undertaking. And normally, if an organization or an enterprise is embarking on the digital transformation journey, then you expect to start with a bit of incremental and kind of smooth transitions. And then as the maturity rises, then you can go into more aggressive and more radical moves. So this really applies to enterprises, whether they are private sector, public sector, or a non-for-profit, or even if we are talking about a large scale, about countries and nations. In relation to the element of novelty of the digital transformation, we identify the constituencies, and we identify for whom this would be kind of novel. Is it for the customers, or for the business stakeholders, or the partners, or the entire industry, or competitors? And that would be in cases when competition is through disruption of what other competitors are doing. And last but not the least, it talks about the breadth of the digital transformation. So are we talking about limited transformation of particular processes or particular components within the business landscape, or we are talking about an entire business model or a value chain, or even more ambitiously, if we are talking about value creation networks, and that's encompassing multiple enterprises and multiple organizations. So why do we need to talk about human capital in particular when we are talking about or considering the digital transformation initiatives? So it's basically we are having a major undertaking.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Something wrong with your mic when you're moving. Maybe something is covering it, and your voice is breaking. Is it possible to change the location of your mic?
Let me. I'm actually using the built-in mic within the computer.
Now it's better. Yes.
Is
when
it?
you come closer, it's much better.
Okay, I'm getting closer to the laptop, so apologies for that.
Thank you. Now it's much better. Thank you.
Okay. Do I need to reiterate and repeat something of what I've been saying?
I don't think so. It's just breaking with small pieces for a couple of seconds, and you are coming back. But when you are closer to the mic and the screen, then it's fine.
Okay, good. We'll make sure that I stay at this angle. All right. So now we're talking about a major change in relation to digital transformation, and really it's about the bulk of it is about the process side of things and the people side of things, and the technology is certainly there to enable. Nonetheless, we are talking about a complex kind of undertaking and change, and it requires real diligence and real care and building of capabilities and talent in order to have authentic transformation, rather than just something that's superficial or having a fad or kind of a hype. So in order to turn digital transformation from just a buzzword into what it really has to offer, then we need to focus on the people side. Obviously, I'm talking about what we are building as providers and people that are conducting business and providing services, be it business to business or business to consumer, or whatever the formula is, in case we are talking about government as well. So that also is a part of the discussion. And we have to be appreciative of the fact that today's era is honestly characterized by the VUCA kind of pattern, with volatility, with uncertainty, with complexity and ambiguity as part of the majority of the work we're doing. So it's really of the essence to have resilient people talents and resilient people aspects in order to be able to make the best out of the various work that we are doing. And lastly, obviously transformation, not just the digital aspect, is by definition or by design a journey. So it's really lifelong kind of activity, or it spans multiple years. So continuous and lifelong learning is definitely then of the essence and one of the key items to look at. And when we're talking about people, we are not just talking about a specific part of the organization or the leadership piece. Obviously, the leaders have their share of the responsibilities and the onus that they have to carry, and obviously it cuts across the various levels of the organization, talking about the structure down to the people on the ground. And what we expect is that we need to have like a push and pull kind of approach, or a top down and bottom up kind of contribution. So it's something like those pervasive paradigms, like quality, for example, like a very important kind of thing. It's really everybody's business. It's not just a silo that is responsible for it. So it's about having the digital capability across the board. Now to my basic three-pronged approach, which is very simply starting from the premise that for any type of work to achieve real and true significance, it has to be done through teams of people. It has to involve multiple personnel. It's not a one man or one lady show, and therefore the very fundamental step is to avoid the downside of team negative interpersonal communication and interpersonal aspects. So we start by removing the obstruction, or removing the obstructing blocks, and mitigating any kind of derailment, and then we can look at the enablement of performance and the unleashing of performance potential of the individuals and the teams and the organizations. Once we've done that, then we are really ready for the apex. That's the main thing that we aspire to achieve, and that's the creation and evolution and increasing maturity of useful knowledge. And I have to admit that today's world is certainly very much around knowledge work than it was at any point in time before. And especially so if we are talking about digital transformation initiatives, definitely it's very much geared and coupled to knowledge creation and innovation. So if we look at the mitigation of derailment, my my logic here is to start with the appreciation of differences between ourselves and the others. That's the main kind of opportunity for synergy, is to leverage the differences and leverage the diversity in a way that's really collaborative and cooperative rather than competing. So we have three valid and three very relevant frameworks that are worth looking at. There is the mental maps model that's advocated by neuroscientists, and one of them is the renowned David Rock, that I suggest that you review his work in that area. It comes across very clearly in relation to the way our brains are working in life in general, whether at work or in various relationships, and how we are by design, we are different from one another, and there is huge differences in the cognitive preferences and choices between people. Next are a couple of psychometrics that I find as very relevant and very insightful in trying to harmonize the interpersonal communication. The first is the MBTI, or the Myers-Briggs type indicator, which tells us about the introversion / extroversion, the intuition / sensing, and then thinking / feeling, and judging / perceiving. And obviously we are not talking about stereotypes or boxing people into molds. Nonetheless, it's very insightful in appreciating the main preferences and the main, let's say, comfort zones for people in relation to energizing and drawing up energy for work and motivation. And the way we acquire knowledge, is it by intuition or by using our senses in a very detailed manner, asking so many questions and so on and so forth, and whether we are more task orientated or people orientated, and whether we live there to do something out there in the world and leave a legacy, or we are very much focused on acquiring knowledge and learning and studying and probably observing others. Obviously, it's not kind of an exclusive kind of dichotomies. Obviously, there are people who are midpoint in many of those areas. Nonetheless, it's very important to try and draw the line when we are having a real introvert person communicating with another introvert or with another extrovert. There are, in all cases, there are blind spots, there are potential for confusion, there are potential for contention and tension to arise. And we need to be appreciative of that and know how to deal with it. The second robust psychometric that I find of real relevance is the HBDI. That's the Herman Brain Dominance Instrument, which looks at the brain and tries to figure it out like 4 quadrants. One is procedural, the other is analytical, and this represents the left brain, as it were, in the theory, and the right brain, which is more towards the creativity and innovation, as well as the people and emotions kind of focus. So again, it's not to say that we have one quadrant that's active. No, we can have multiple quadrants obviously active, but then we need to understand the variances in the preference of cognitive pursuits. Some people would rely very much on looking at processes and procedures, and they view life as a series of value chains, and other people would like to do some kind of visualization and look at numbers and look at things in quite an analytical approach. Some people are really very interested in the psychological drivers, why people do that, why they don't do that, what makes people tick, what would make a person really energized and go the extra miles, and so on and so forth. So that is really of the essence to understand the magic of the 4 quadrants of the brain. So these are the 3 models that I see as very insightful in relation to the variance and difference in people's in people's cognitive abilities, as well as sources of energy, etc. And the fourth model, which is, I refer to the work of the renowned philosopher and guru Eckhart Tolle, awakening, because really we can have some kind of what he refers to as illusory self that's standing in the way when we are having discussion between people or any kind of interaction. If we are identifying with ourselves as our own occupation, as our own background, or even nationality, etc. That's some kind of false kind of self-perception. So we need to have proper self-awareness and really look at our inner core. And in that, we tend to think of people as, and not just people, really all living creatures. And I would even, using Eckhart Tolle's frame of mind, really all creatures on the earth as having something that's really in some kind of a universal approach that's really very common in between the various people in various places and all the creatures that are on this earth. So that takes away lots of the false attachment to what we can see as dogmas or things that are considered as red lines not to be crossed. And we as Eckhart Tolle really clearly discusses, at a certain point in time, you see the fight between people in relation to some intellectual debate as if it's a matter of life or death. And he very smartly says that in essence it is, because if the illusory self is very much associated with the beliefs and the doctrines that one considered as his own or her own, then the discussion with someone who is trying to refute or to debunk those opinions is like somebody is trying to smash the other. So that's a very deep philosophy, as well as presented in very simple words and very simple ways. So it's really worth looking at his various videos, reading his books. That's the last reference that I'm recommending in relation to the mitigation of derailment. Now, moving on to the unleashing of performance potential, I would start with Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's The Flow experience. That's the optimal psychological experience, when he talks about someone who is really in the zone, who is doing something that they really like and they are good at, and it's kind of a positive synergy. If you are doing something well, chances are you will like it, and if you like something, it will help you to do it even better and walk the extra mile in relation to excelling at it. And then what drives you into this positive flow experience is to always try something that's a little bit challenging to you, not so much as in to be depressive and to be like an impossible target, and not so complacent and not so modest of a challenge in order to avoid falling in boredom. So the two ends of the spectrum from Mihai's perspective are the boredom and the fright and let's say depression on the other side. Then comes First Things First, which is the late Stephen Covey, obviously one of his classic legacies, part of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So that's really one of the very relevant frames of mind in order to hone down and sharpen your impact and really prioritize. And there is lots of talk and study around the need to focus and like doing that sharp kind of impact, not spreading oneself too thin by avoiding multitasking, by avoiding working on too many targets. I think that's very much summed up in Stephen Covey's work, and that's one of the models that I really like. Lela, you were about to say something. Am I breaking up?
No, it's much better. The break was a couple times, not more, but I didn't really, I didn't want it to interrupt. The books that you listed, I was thinking to myself, I have read majority of books and the MIBT, and I have actually used all those, and it's very nice. And you have really nicely summarized them. And meanwhile, I want to encourage our guests, feel free to post your questions here. We will be addressing them later. So put your questions in the chat.
Thank you, Lela. Of course, we are. I personally am counting on the questions part for me to benefit and to really come up with some more explorations and insights. Third model is the one by Hay Group, and that's relatively old, but it remains really current, and there is lots of modern research around it, and it links the leadership styles. Leadership styles obviously do not have to be considered just confined to managers by position. Anybody doing any work that really influences people is assuming a leadership position, and therefore the leadership style that's being done or practiced has quite a bearing on the organizational climate and the dimensions of climate, ranging from clarity to standards, to sense of flexibility, to sense of fairness and reward, and then the sum of all of this into commitment and how people are energized or not energized to pursue what the organization is all about, what the team is set to do, what the project team, whatever the setup is. Really, the leadership style is having such a heavy impact on the climate, and therefore is responsible for a very large part of the success or failure of the outcome and how people are performing. The last one, certainly it's not the least, is giving and receiving feedback. And the most beautiful analysis and recommendations that I came across in that regard come from, again, David Rock. And this is an area where lots of problems are actually there. Many of the schools of feedback and between quotes talking about constructive feedback are not so successful, and simply because they are not compatible with the way our neurons, if you will, and our brain is programmed. At the end of the day, we have to appreciate that our brain was built with two states that are very fundamental, either a reward or a threat. And the studies that have been performed and lots of the work is really confirming what David Rock is advocating. If you're talking about the pointing out of the negative side, chances are the person receiving the feedback will switch into the model that says, I'm getting a threat, I have to be on the defense. He or she doesn't really listen and doesn't really appreciate or get the essence of what's being discussed. On the contrary, one starts to put all of the arguments why he or she did that thing and that it was the right thing at the time, and maybe blame it on others, blame it on circumstances, etc. Very few people can respond in a positive way to negative critique. And not to be misunderstood, neither David Rock or myself are actually suggesting that we ignore the shortcomings of people, but you just slightly turn things around. So obviously there has to be something good in any person. Nobody is really like completely black or completely white for that matter. So you build on the strengths, you build on the positives, and when you're considering the negatives, I strongly suggest, like David Rock is suggesting, not to use one of the trite mechanisms, and I'm sorry to refer to it as trite or not so authentic, like the sandwich approach, which is you start with something positive, you put in the heavy stuff, and then you end with a positive thing. No, that's not really the right thing to do. It's on the contrary, you look at the shortcomings, but you do it, as I'm saying, in a slightly shifted manner or slightly tweaked manner, and that is look at the alternative scenarios. What if we do this? And you look at the positive thing, and here comes one very strong piece of advice that I really appreciate from David Rock and the various neuroscientists, and that is when we're talking about engineering problems and very materialistic kind of environments and systems, it's okay to go into the route of root cause analysis for problems, and to have this very strong
I'm sorry. Can everybody mute your mics, please?
Okay, so I think that I took the liberty of trying to mute something. No, it looks like I cannot do it. Maybe you can.
Right. Actually, I cannot either, so I'll try to. So yeah. Please continue. Sorry for that.
No problem. So back again to this notion about the feedback thing, and
so sandwich is no more valid and no more the best approach anymore.
No, I really, it's kind of very mechanistic kind of thing, and it's like a trick, if you will. Being authentic is at the core of success, and that's my view. Doing the right things, and I still vividly remember one of the very good instructors in my life that I met when I was just getting into the people management position, and I was overwhelmed with having to achieve financial targets and customer satisfaction and employee morale and employee readiness and preparedness and business controls, compliance, etc. It looked like an awful lot to me, and he said one thing: you at any point in time, like Stephen Covey's compass, you do what is right. You try, obviously, not that I'm doing the right thing at each and every minute, but I'm trying to, and I think that's the hallmark of success. Trying to do things ethically and in essence, I've always, and probably many of the participants would agree here, many of the things that are counter ethical behavior may bring you some success for a very short-lived amount of time, or if it lasts, it's kind of hollow. It's not really authentic or genuine success. What's really sustainable, what's really valuable, is what's congruent with the universal base of ethics, and like the principles of Kant, the principles of the all of the good fundamental beliefs that all of the good people in various parts of the world would agree to. So coming back to this notion about the problem research and the root cause analysis, and it's a very slight yet deep kind of a point. David Rock and many of the neuroscientists advocate that whatever we are iterating is like in electronics, when you're creating an integrated circuit, or you are doing a circuit imprint. If you are doing the electric current in a certain manner, it then creates a solid connection. It creates this this kind of very profound and very deep kind of network. And by analogy, from a cybernetics point of view, that would happen to the nervous network and to our neurons. And if you are repetitively looking at the problem side of things, even though you are doing it with all the good intentions, you are trying to find the root causes to solve the problem, but merely repeating the problem is really creating all the inclinations to remain in that problem, like the self-fulfilling prophecy and this kind of approach. It gets your circuits very much geared and drawn towards the problem. And he advocates this approach about the solution-orientated mindset. And that's precisely what he suggests for the feedback. When you are faced with a negative behavior, you do not dwell on it. You can mention it just once, and then you look at the alternative and you visualize with the person what life would be when the proper choice is done. I was planning to make this very brief, but I'm sorry that I have lingered a little bit. It's close to 40 minutes now, and I'm not done. So I will try to compensate on the upcoming slides. Okay, so now the most interesting piece to me of the 3 tracks is the creation and evolution of knowledge. And I'm selecting here 7 aspects that I will be mentioning. I will try to focus in particular on the 5th of them, the knowledge spiral. Nonetheless, I'll go through all of them as well. First is the dynamic capability approach, and an organization's capability is boiling down to being able to mobilize and use resources to perform activities that achieve an end result that's congruent with the intent or the mission of the organization. From a digital transformation capabilities and digital era, the 4 capabilities that are seen by researchers and practitioners alike as of the essence are the agile digital culture, digital leadership, and the building of digital talent, and having a proper transformative strategy in place that's being pursued, and it's having two-way impact on the initiatives. It really is the overarching principle for the initiatives and projects, and in the meantime, it's being enriched and influenced by the outcomes of those initiatives and projects. So if we look at the 4 capabilities in more detail, a little bit more detail. So the agile digital culture, obviously the agility is of the essence, and doing things in the approach of avoiding to fall in the trap where the excellent is the enemy of the good. That's respecting that we do something that's acceptable and we roll it out. We have always a continual kind of incremental value add, and then we build on it and we improve, and continuous improvement becomes more of the essence in that regard, of course. And you need to embrace VUCA. You need to live with today's ambiguity and uncertainty, and that's why also the agility concept of sprints is very much relevant, where you time box things and you do things that are having reasonable clarity of the line of sight. If you're talking about something that's spanning a couple of weeks or a month, that's definitely more controllable and having less uncertainty than talking about something that's longer in the time span. Again, experimentation and prototyping and proof of capabilities is something at the core of this digital culture, and many of the paradigms of design thinking would come in handy here. Like if you're going to fail, then fail fast and cheap. You need to understand if something is not working, then you shouldn't waste lots of resources, and you shouldn't waste lots of time in that regard. Digital leadership is basically around a couple of things, in my view. The customer centricity or citizen centricity, if we are talking about nations and governments, and having the holistic and big picture of things, and then doing things with a heavy reliance on creativity and innovation. And it doesn't have to be all of it invented here. We have to think of creative content and creative solutions as something that you consider whether to do or buy. That's you actually do it in-house, or you do some kind of alliance or some kind of collaboration and or acquisition of that creativity and innovation. Then the building of digital talent. We need people to be more than ever identifying with their professions, with their professional aspirations, and the communities of practice that has been around for many, many decades now, using the platforms that we have, like the collaboration platforms sourced from many different providers, are encouraging the jamming, the creation of valid discussions and constructive discussions, and building on one another's ideas and so on and so forth. And that creates some kind of empowerment for the teams, and really leads to this self-organizing teams, obviously with the appropriate framework and the appropriate delineation for that. Last but not the least is to have the big picture. And as I'm saying, there is this two-way communication between the strategy and the people on the ground, and also having the strategy as something that's really action rooted rather than being done in ivory towers. So it's something that has to be considered as work in progress. It's not something that's carved in stone for 5 years. No, it's definitely less than that. I think that a couple of years or 1 year is important to look at as a span, given again all of the volatility, uncertainty, and complexity in the world. And obviously, strategy has to be revised when there is something that's happening even ahead of the time window. If we are saying that this covers a couple of years, and then something happens, an opportunity that is offered, or a threat, as we've seen in for example, the pandemic in 2020. And I pray that this comes to an end for the entire world. But that has led, obviously, that's one example of having to revisit strategies ahead of the time that it was planned to, or the expiry. Next is the learning styles, and one view of that is the one by Mumford and et al. And that's some people are activists that learn by doing things, and they enjoy the group cases, role playing, etc. And some people are reflectors. They love to observe. They love to look at things that happened, and with the hindsight, try to crystallize the lessons learned. Some people would love to go through theories and are very skilled in dealing with abstracts and statistics, etc. And some are really very much pragmatic people who are learning by practicing what they learn in the real world. So it's important that a learner or a trainer, if a trainer is involved, that we take care to tailor the way that the learning is happening to suit the style of the person or the people that are consuming that training. One interesting view about learning that really is optimized has been done by the Herman Brain Dominance Instrument, and it's interestingly having the processes acronym as the buzzword to remember. So it is encouraging that the learner would try to identify the patterns between the bits and pieces that he or she is learning, and to rest it. When we say sleep on it, that's allow the subconscious and unconscious mind to do its magic. And that's something that's now confirmed by science, and it's not just an assumption. How lots of the creativity is really being done in the subconscious and unconscious mind. Ownership is about always taking notes and creating your own artifacts, whether you're capturing keywords, you're highlighting parts of a book, if it is in print, or even a PDF you can highlight, etc. Or maybe some artistic people would like to draw stuff, and some scientific orientated people would like to draw diagrams and curves, etc. So you create your own version of what you're learning. That makes it not just stick, but also to have more relevance and to be of higher relevance to whatever is being done. Challenge is obviously trying to work with quizzes, exercises, and that's a two-way responsibility between the learner and trainer. Emotions, and that's to create an attachment between what one is learning and some kind of preferred art, be it visual arts, pictures or sounds, if you are into music, so you associate it with whatever kind of music. And lots of the applications, by the way, have this interesting notion, not just the genres of music, but then they have this moods. So if you're into focus, into contemplation, and so on and so forth, and it's really interesting that there is so much stuff using many genres, from classic music to modern to rock to jazz, that is used for studying, used for coding, and I think that there is lots of evidence that this is really something that really works. Socialize, and that's trying to, and this is something I've grown with since I was a very junior employee, that whenever you're teaching something, chances are you will learn it even better. So socialize and try to exchange ideas and compare notes. That's something that's of the essence. Staggering, do not get all in one go. Try to have breaks and allow for things to be digested and compared and taken to a higher level of understanding and depth of what's being done. Exercise, and that's the physical exercise, and there are lots of evidence around the validity of the sports as one of the means to promote the creativity and the success of learning. And last but not the least, pay attention to the styles of yourself as a learner. More than anybody else, you are your own master here, and you know what to do, how to consume things, and what kind of channel is the best for you to learn, and what kind of media to support you in that in that. Now, critical thinking. I will leave you with this, because I will be sharing the document by the end of the webinar. I'm not going to spend lots of time here, because I want to come to this favorite model. That's an old model that has been created by Nonaka, and it's still as good as it was during the days it was created, and maybe today it's having more relevance and more let's say success in relation to the use case. So it starts with looking at the types of knowledge as explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge, and it looks also at the ontological part. Are we talking about an individual or a team or the larger part of the organization? So that's the two dimensions that they look at, and then they consider the conversion, the transformation of knowledge from one type to the other. And for example, I would look at the socialization, externalization, combination, and internalization using a couple of examples. Consider that we are embarking on a digital transformation project whereby the process for one department or one part of the organization needs to be changed and modernized in order to make use of the digital transformation capabilities. So we need like a guru to facilitate a workshop about looking at the process as it is, and to move on with the design of the desired and to be state. And chances are, if you are having a junior or a new business analyst who is working side by side with that guru, is that he or she will pick up the know-how, kind of tacit to tacit knowledge. That's the socialization piece. That's like in the old model of the apprenticeship, when an apprentice is working with the master and picking up by seeing, and as the saying goes, learning over the shoulders. So if you are doing this and then you try to externalize that apprentice, or that new business analyst is trying to document what he or she saw, and you put it in a write-up and explaining the key ingredients of what to do to facilitate the workshop, then chances are you'll be able to share that with the master and share it with colleagues and even vet it and have a better version of the thing. Even more interestingly, you look at the combination kind of things when you're combining things together. So look at another aspect, and that's a workshop to capture and crystallize the user feedback. If you have the right for that and you're conducting the user feedback workshop, chances are you'll be able to find elements that would have been very relevant if they were incorporated in the workshop facilitation for the design. So it's this kind of combination and kind of cross-reference and cross-fertilization of ideas. Same as for Leila's preferred topic, the project management. If you are having a codified and externalized piece of process that talks about how to conduct an audit in terms of health assessment of a project, and look at that piece or that process, and then another process that's capturing at the end of the sprint or the end of the project or the end of the phase, looking at the lessons learned, what worked well, what didn't work well. And then you can, with the hindsight, look at things that could have been very relevant if they were explored in the health assessment. So I apologize for having lingered. The last couple of slides, I will again leave you with them. One particular slide I like most, and that's the good work of people upon whose contributions I've built my short presentation. And over to you, Lela, and apologies for the lingering again.
No problem. Actually, it was so involving and so engaging. I had all the ideas over the every slide and every approach, your styles and optimization models. So I could listen and listen, and time goes very fast. Actually, they are so interesting, and I see that you have done a huge job of analyzing every of those books, and I have read, as I mentioned, some, not all, but some of them. And actually, this is the result of big analysis. So you did a job for others and presented the collaboration of all those approaches. And actually, the idea of having a more like digital approach, it drives. There are new approaches, new styles, and we have to adapt quickly, and we have to acquire knowledge quickly, but we also have to be very agile to knowing what approaches exist, and what other approaches emerging, and what learning styles can also be like used for different groups of people. So I really loved the presentation. It was very impressive, and I'm sure I have received the few private direct messages, and we have actually also feedback from the audience. We have a question, and we have a very short time left, but I want to ask you a question from Valid. How can we solve the issue of knowing the learning style for learners before getting into learning procedures, whether if it is physical or online training?
Right. Thank you, Walid, for a very interesting question. And really, I'm not saying that there is a silver bullet, but there is a very good approach to try and find that. And that's really by asking, and not just by asking one single word. There are questionnaires that if you go through them, and I think that some of this material is available for free as shareware, which tells you what your preferences are. It's like the MBTI, lots of good stuff that is free, up for grabs. The HBDI is something that I think requires really the HBDI true toolkit. The approximations or the things that are available for free would not be as good as the HBDI. But coming back to the learning styles, I trust that what you have as free questionnaires would fit the bill, and it can equip you with the preference of the person. And a very short version of it even is to look at the keywords. If you are to create a quick or let's say a very fast and agile kind of check. So you would put in, do you love working with puzzles? Do you love role playing? Do you love looking at stories? Do you love working with statistics and theoretical models? Do you prefer the self-analysis and personality questionnaires? Do you like to be an observer when a role playing is happening rather than engage in the role play? Would you like to take notes and then come up with feedback and listen to feedback? Or are you a person who really would love to learn something and go and practice it there and then, the next day or the next hour? I hope that I managed to give you some insight for that.
Mm-hmm. And actually, we have follow-up note from Valid. Actually, most of the entities does not give the chance for trainers to do any questionnaires or assessment before training. Well, maybe not all. I may take some of the part of it and answer. They may not, but usually big companies really care for the assessment and approach they are using for the trainings. I can tell by Georgia, and there are some tools which are used by HRs. So what do you think, Ayman?
Okay. All right.
So actually, Ayman, I have a question.
Sure. We didn't agree that you will be asking tough questions, okay?
I have recently came across with the AQ tests for employees, adaptability Q. So what do you think about these tests, how they are used, and will they be used more and more, because the employees need more and more of this skill?
Right. So coming back to the discussions around IQ and EQ, one of the best books that I have read in relation to the use and limitations of IQs is the book by Sir Ken Robinson, The Element, and in there he gives so much insightful discussions about the types of intelligence, and that there is a lot more than what the classic IQs are measuring, and that actually plays towards the point that you are making. So that there is obviously the emotional intelligence books and authorities who are addressing this, like Daniel Goleman, and I think that's one of the very good sources to acquire and digest. Nonetheless, I strongly recommend that one would listen to and read the points of view of Ken Robinson in that regard.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Time has really passed so fast, and we're over 1 hour. I want to thank you for this amazing presentation, and I want to thank all the participants who joined and stayed during this session. And I want to thank all the people who really who watched this video later and shared with the colleagues. And we will see you next time during our next sessions, and we will try to have the same interesting speakers and have the same interesting topics. So have a nice rest of the day. Thank you everybody for attending, and feel free to join me on my social media network.
Thank you, Lela. Thank you.